Hi everyone, thought I'd do a video, and today I am going to be telling you what books intimidate me. So, I'm just gonna get right into it. And the first book that intimidates me is called Beautiful Creatures by Garcia and Margaret Stohl. Their book series is massive, in my opinion. There are about 500 pages in this book, and there are about the same amount in each and every book. I've actually already read this book. I'm just talking about the series in general because it is massive. In to have the whole series as massive as this, it's just really intimidating to me. And reading this book, when I first read this book, I was like, I could totally handle this. This is like 500 pages. I can totally do 500 pages. I've read Harry Potter, so those books are pretty massive too. Those are around the same as this. Like some of them are even like 700 pages, which I've done before. So, and that was like when I was like 12 or something, like even younger than that. Somewhere around 10 to 12. Somewhere around there. I read Harry Potter back then. I could totally handle this. But there is something that makes it insanely intimidating having 500 pages in each and every book, and it was just it was a little hard to get into at first, and it just stayed at that same type of pace. Like I was into it, but it just stayed in that type of pace throughout the whole book, and it's just something about the series that intimidates me. And I tried reading The Diviners, but I couldn't get into it. It is a historical fiction. I think it's the first historical fiction that I've ever read. Maybe the second one, I think. Maybe. But, tried to read this, and it was like really slow in the beginning, and I don't know, there's just something that made me put the book down, and it just looks like a really good book, but at the same time, it's just something about it. Maybe it's the massiveness of this book. Maybe that's a contributing factor. But I don't know. It's historical fiction. I think it's science fiction. It's also paranormal, which really got me into wanting to read this book soon. And I heard really good things about Libba Bray, and I really want to get into it, but it is so intimidating to have a book this big. This is probably about 500, almost 600 pages, I think. Yeah, almost 600 pages. 578 pages, so it's almost 600 pages. And it's really intimidating to have a book this size, knowing that I'm probably going to read this book slow when I do get the chance to read it, or when I do get up the courage to reread the beginning, I guess, and try to get into the book so that I could just get right through it, I guess you could say. But there's just something about Libba Bray, something about historical fiction, something about that just makes me insanely intimidated. The next book is A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray. So as you can see, Libba Bray, there's just something about it that made me insanely intimidated to try to read this. I ended up getting the whole series of this, and then later on I bought The Diviners, and I tried to read The Diviners because it was pretty big and it was only one book at the time, but I found out that there was going to be a series with it. But anyways, this book, it's only about 400 pages, which I don't know why I haven't read it yet. Maybe it's because since it is historical fiction, and since it is Libba Bray, just like The Diviners, it gets me really it's really intimidating. It's 400 pages though, which I usually read an average of 300 pages in a book per book, which is the average I stay around, I guess, when I pick out the books that I want to read and all of that. But there is something about this book. It intimidates me. Mercy by Robin LaFevers. I don't exactly know how to pronounce her last name. So, anyways, this book, I've heard really good things about it. I think it's sort of a science fiction type of fantasy novel. I don't exactly know, but I do know that it is historical fiction. And I don't know, historical fiction really, I just get really intimidated by it, and I assume, like, for some genres, I assume that I am not going to like it, and then I end up liking it, which is probably the truth for historical fiction. It looks like I would really like historical fiction, but at the same time, I'm like, it's so intimidating to me, and I don't know, there's just something about historical fiction that intimidates me, but this book looks really good. I've heard really good things about it, so I need to get into this book. This book is more of a category, I guess you could say, because it is any Stephen King book. I am intimidated by any Stephen King book that there is. And the other thing is, I have so many Stephen King books. I haven't read any of them, by the way. There are so many Stephen King books that I own because my uncle, he worked at this sort of book distributing type of factory type thing. I don't know, but he got a lot of free books from it, the majority of them being Stephen King, and he's not the reading type of person, so he figured he'd just give them away. And since he knew that I am a type of reading person, I was really young when he gave them to me. I was like 12 or something, but he decided to give them to me because he knew that I liked reading. I read Harry Potter, and I was reading Harry Potter, so I thought, well, this is awesome. I have more books and I can start getting more into reading because I really wanted to do that because I really enjoyed Harry Potter, and there's so many books out there. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get my hands on books. So I thought this was awesome. I just hit myself with this book. It's so massive. It's like teetering over and trying to hit me in the head. But anyways, any Stephen King book I am insanely intimidated by. I mean, look how big this is. I think this is probably the thickest book that I have. I don't know if it's the biggest book I have, but it is the thickest book that I have, and it is insanely intimidating. And how many pages are there? There are about 500 and a half pages, maybe almost 600, and it is massive. I don't know how they do it, but the books end up so thick and so massive. But Stephen King, he just writes so intelligently. I just get turned off of it. I tried to read, the first and only book that I've ever tried to read by him was called Carrie, and I tried to read it, but I couldn't get into it because it's the sort of typing, it's the sort of writing that I would have to have a dictionary to sort of read the book, because there are words that I don't understand. And I've had to do that actually for a few books, so very, very few books, but I've had to do that with some books where I want to know the meaning of the word and I would just write it down somewhere else, or I would just look it up in the dictionary at the time so that I would understand what it meant. But it's just he has the type of writing that I would need to have a dictionary around when I was reading it, which is sort of a turnoff for me, and it is also massive, so it just turned me off, I guess. So his work is obviously very intimidating. Stephen King, intimidating writing, intimidating book size, it's just intimidating all around. And the last book that I have to show you guys that intimidates me is called Les Miserables, and it is by Victor Hugo. And if you guys haven't heard of Les Miserables before, you guys really need to look this up, because what really got me into got me to buy this, actually. I went to go see the movie version with what's his name? I think his name is Russell Crowe, and there's this other guy who's the main character who's the main lead, I guess, type of lead in this book and in the musical movie type thing, I guess you could say. but it was a really good movie, and I know that books are always way better than the movie, so I decided to pick this up. But it is insanely intimidating to read. For one, it is already thick. It is heavy. The pages are really thin, so that it won't be as heavy, but you guys can see how thick that is. And since the pages are so thin, you guys will know that, let's see, how many pages are there? There are 1,231 pages in this book that you would have to read. And it is insanely intimidating, but the cover is gorgeous, by the way, which is why I bought it. Which is one of the reasons why I bought it. This edition, anyways. But I am rambling on. I am making this video very long. But anyways, this book is insanely intimidating. It is 1,231 pages. So that is insanely massive. But at the same time, I want to go for it, because it would be like the massivest read ever, and it would give me insane accomplishment to finish because of his massivity. I don't even know if that's a word, massivity, but it is insanely massive. And you guys, it was a really good musical movie type of thing. The actors were amazing in the movie, putting so emotion. They have to put so much emotion into their singing. And the musical was so amazing, and if this book is as amazing as the movie was, which it probably will be, it will be one of the best books ever, in my opinion. I think I would be able to read this book. I don't know when, but I am determined to eventually read this book. That is the end of my video. My very long video. I really need to stop talking so much. I really talk too much. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. So, bye.